On today's show, the Cavs fall in the playoffs again in Game 5 of the second round. Again, after winning 64 games, we can't call this season a success. We'll talk about what went wrong against the Indiana Pacers and where this team needs to go from here on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast,
part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name's Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching this show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell as we get started here so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. The Cavs lose game number 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals to the Indiana Pacers by 9 points, 114-105. They lost game 5 last year to the Boston Celtics. That ended their season. This loss in game 5 to the Pacers also ends their season. Obviously, there are a lot of things about this season that were much different than what last year's season was for the Cavs. But ultimately, this is a season that has the exact same result. We're sitting here talking the same exact point in the season that the season ended last year. And that is not good enough for the Cleveland Cavaliers to take steps that they did take in the regular season. They were a much better team this year, and that is why this is not good enough. It's not that the Cavs just ran it back and won 48 games again and stayed stagnant. No, the Cavs got much better. The Cavs were the second best team in basketball from start to finish this year. They were the best team in the Eastern Conference from start to finish this year. And they finish in the same place that all of this kind of started a year ago from right now. And I look at this and say, well, the Cavs did get better. There was a lot of growth. Evan Mobley improved significantly. I think Donovan Mitchell just continues to be a better basketball player and I think a better leader. Darius Garland got back to being an all-star. Jared Allen sort of rewrote the narrative about him coming off of missing a good chunk of the playoffs last year. Kenny Atkinson, win coach of the year, well-deserved too. Donovan Mitchell, probably going to be first-team All-NBA. Evan Mobley will almost certainly be second-team All-NBA. There was a lot, defensive player of the year for Evan too. There was a lot of things to be happy about this year. But as I sit here, a few hours removed from the final buzzer of the final game of the season, I can't help but think that none of this was good enough. That this was a team that the entire season talked about winning a championship. That was their goal. And it was a very legitimate goal. Just about all season long on FanDuel, Cavs had the third best title odds behind Oklahoma City and the Boston Celtics. And now that's all gone. On May 13th, the season ends. Far before anybody internally thought it would end, far before anybody externally thought it would end. And when that is the case, when that is the reality that you live in, this season, despite the fact that the regular season was magical, that they were great, that they just smoked teams repeatedly, that they won 64 games, that they had one of the best point differentials in NBA history, this season is always going to be thought of this way. Because this year was not about running up regular season success. This year was not about winning 60-plus games for just the third time in franchise history. This year was not about clinching the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. This year for the Cavs was about taking a step forward when it mattered. Donovan Mitchell spoke all year through the highs and the lows for the Cavs. Far more highs than lows. About building the proper habits. About this team being judged based upon what they do in the postseason. And he was correct about that. That's what this group is going to be judged upon. That's what this group should be judged upon. They shouldn't be looked at as a team, oh, what a fun season. It was great. Like it was. Those things are true. But ultimately, that's not the stuff that matters. Do I wish the regular season mattered a little bit more? Sure, I do. I think it would have been better for the NBA if the two teams in the Eastern Conference that won 60-plus games were meeting in the conference finals, as opposed to the Pacers and the Knicks, But the Pacers and the Knicks are the two teams that went out and earned it, essentially. And I'm assuming that the New York Knicks are going to find a way to win one more game against the Boston Celtics, sans Jason Tatum. But it just proves that the playoffs are the thing that matters. The playoffs are a different brand of basketball. And I think the most disappointing thing about this postseason run for the Cavs is how ill-prepared they seemed against Indiana. And we can get into exactly what went wrong during the series, and I will be doing that coming up in the next segment. But ultimately, I just keep coming back to the Pacers were the better team. The Cavs finished with 64 wins in the regular season. The Pacers finished with 50 on the nose. And I understand that from January 1st on, the Cavs were like a half game better than the Pacers. So the Pacers did not come into this series as a group of slouches. They're a very good team. They deserve all the credit in the world for beating the Cavs, because what they did was they outplayed the Cavs for nearly the entire series when you look at it from start to finish in just about every facet of the game. We can talk about how game 2, the Cavs really outplayed the Pacers and they felt like they controlled the game and they should have won that one. And they're probably right there. They should have won that game. Just about everything that could have gone wrong for them in the final 2 minutes of that game did, or the final 1 minute of that game, I guess I should say, did go wrong. And in a different world where those things don't go wrong, we're not having this conversation right now. We're not talking about this year being a failure right now. We're talking about what can the Cavs do potentially in game 6. And we don't know what the rest of the series would have looked like. And in game 3, the Cavs controlled it. They looked great. That was the best they've looked in this series. But game 1, game 4, game 5, they looked like the lesser team against a team that I still do think they're more talented than. Like, if you put the Pacers and the Cavs down on paper, the Cavs are the more talented team. But they didn't play like it in this series. The Pacers did. The Pacers outworked the Cavs. The Pacers out-physicaled the Cavs. The Pacers out-executed the Cavs in every single facet of the game. And for that to happen in the second round, it is really hard for me to look at this and say anything other than it's not a successful season. It's not. They won 64 games. They were great. They were great. I think that has an argument as the most fun Cavs team of all time in the regular season. The only other team I think is in consideration for that is the 2008-2009 team. That team got to the conference finals. Was it a success? No. That team also had championship aspirations. But this, to me, is one of the biggest failures the Cavs have had, because this group has had regular season success. They came into not to the extent that they did this year, but they came into this season, won 51 games 2 years ago, won 48 despite dealing with a myriad of injuries last year. And they lost in the first round than they lost in the second round. They've experienced more regular season success this year, and they experienced more postseason success this year than they did in either of those 2 years by winning a series against Miami by the largest margin of victory in NBA history. But to then turn around and be completely outclassed by, again, a team that I do not think is as talented as the Cavs top to bottom, screams failure to me. I'm sorry. It does. I wish I could sit up here and say something else, but I have to say what I feel on this. The Cavs were not good enough when it mattered. And ultimately, that's going to be the thing that, right or wrong, is remembered most about this season. That's going to be the thing that we remember about this playoff run. We're not going to remember beating the Miami Heat by 1,000 points in game 4 or 37 points in game 3. We're not going to remember Ty Jerome's game 1 against the Miami Heat where he had 28 points. We're not going to remember Donovan Mitchell's 48 performance in game 2 against the Indiana Pacers, or his 43-point performance in game 3, which I think is one of the best non-LeBron playoff performances in franchise history. Those things are going to be lost to history, partially because of how short the Cavs came up. If this would have happened in the conference finals, I think it would have been a really tough pill to swallow. But the Cavs could have pointed at this and said, we improved. We made the next step. We went to where we wanted to go in the postseason. If that would have happened, I think it would have been much easier to live with. But the fact that the Cavs did everything right all season long, they won a bunch of games. they, I think, made a great move in relieving JB Bickerstaff of his duties and hiring Kenny Atkinson, who was the coach of the year. I don't think that could have worked out any better. They did everything right. Everything. Donovan Mitchell was great. Evan Mobley got so much better. Darius Garland bounced back. They did everything right. And then, when it mattered, they're in the same exact spot they were last year, losing in the conference semifinals in 5 games. That is what the Cavs are going to have to live with this entire offseason. And there will be a bigger conversation this week that I plan on having about what the next few months are going to look like for the Cavs. I would think there are going to be some sort of changes here, because now you can say, we want to run it back, and they did run it back last year, and we'll hear what Kobe Altman has to say. I assume he's going to meet with the media at some point later on this week, maybe early next week. I don't know. Maybe they want to run it back. I don't know that that's the best idea, because now, while we've seen this group have different versions of regular season success over the past 3 years, the unfortunate reality they're living in is they've not gotten past game 5 of the conference semifinals, both against a team that they were not going to beat the Boston Celtics last year if they were healthy. They were not going to. If they're healthy in this series, maybe they beat the Pacers. I don't know. I think after game 3, I felt pretty confident saying, no, if the Cavs were healthy, they would win this series. But after games 4 and 5, watching that, I can't say that for sure. I don't know that that's true. So you find yourselves in the same exact spot you were before. Do they want to run it back? I don't know. Do they want to make changes? I don't know. But I think it's something that needs to be strongly considered, because this, ultimately, for what this group set out to do, and make no mistake, they are a better team than they were 365 days ago when they lost to Boston. But they're a better team that's in the same exact spot, and that's not a place you want to be. All right, we're going to talk about the actual game, what actually happened in game 5, and how the Cavs blew a 19-point lead for the second time in this series. Next, right here on Locked on Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. It is springtime. Springtime means playoff basketball. Springtime also means it might be time to do a little bit of upgrading around the house. Maybe you've got that bathroom that you want to totally refurbish. You want to make it a nice bathroom as opposed to what you've got now. Or you're thinking, I've been inside all winter. I've had to stare at this kitchen. That is just, it's driving me nuts. I can't do this kitchen anymore. I want a new kitchen. Well, lucky for you, I have the place where you should be going for all of your home projects. And that place is Wayfair, because they're the best kept secrets for all things home improvement, from small updates like maybe a stylish cabinet hardware to major upgrades like new vanities, sinks, outdoor lighting, that kitchen I mentioned. Wayfair has quality products for every budget imaginable, right? You want the best stuff, but you don't want to have to overspend. Wayfair helps you out right there. Plus, they've got free and fast shipping that makes it so easy. You don't have to haul heavy items from the store to your residence. Plus, they've got top brands like GE and Moen at great prices, what you'd love to hear. Shopping is seamless, and you'll find exactly what you need to fit your space and style. Wayfair, like I said, makes home improvement easy. Get started now at wayfair.com. That is Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thank you again for making Locked on Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Make sure you drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked on Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. So this game, it almost felt as if I was watching the Cavs play Game 7 against the Orlando Magic last year. Both teams came out on Tuesday night, I thought played very tight. This felt like a Game 7. It felt like the Cavs and Pacers early on were both exuding a lot of energy to do anything. Now, the Cavs had an advantage early because they were able to get to the rim over and over and over again. Donovan Mitchell didn't have the most efficient night from the floor, but he got to the free throw line a ton. Why? Because he went to the rim over and over and over again. That is the area where the Cavs had the advantage. The area where the Cavs had an extreme disadvantage was beyond the arc, which is kind of, to me, what one of the big stories of this series has been. And I will at some point soon probably do a deep dive into like how good their shot quality actually was in this series versus what the metrics say. But the Cavs are going to, and the tracking numbers are not final yet, so I don't have them. I don't want to read what I have. But they are most likely going to finish this series shooting under 25% on wide open three-pointers. That, to me, is one of the stories of this series. They didn't do, in my opinion, a good enough job of generating enough of them. Like, the only game in which I thought they generated enough three-pointers was game 3. And hey, what do you know? They won that game, despite the fact they didn't shoot well from 3. I think they were still below 30% in that game, but they took 47 of them. In this game, they took 35 of them. In this game, the Cavs only had 10 assists. The ball movement, I don't want to say was non-existent, but it was pretty close to it. They had 4 assists in the first quarter and then just 6 in the final 3 quarters. They couldn't move the basketball. What they were doing offensively looked to be so far removed from what this team was during the regular season. They looked, I don't think I can even say like a shell of themselves, because that's not even true. They looked like a different team trying to play offense. And I think some of that has to do with the way Indiana defended them. I think some of that has to do with the injuries the Cavs have been dealing with, and that is not an excuse. The Cavs are not making that excuse. I am not making that excuse for the Cavs, but I do think it has to be mentioned, at least when you talk about this particular thing, because of who some of the injuries were to. Like Donovan Mitchell, I think if you watched this series, you should have gained a ton of respect for Donovan Mitchell with what he was able to do. In this game, was not very efficient, just 8 of 25. But he had 35 points because he took himself to the line 21 times. 4 of 13 from 3. Grabbed 9 boards. Like, he was the guy for the Cavs that in this series, if you had questions about him as a playoff performer, those should disappear forever. Donovan Mitchell is not the reason the Cavs lost this series. Now, could he have been better at some things? Could he have been more efficient? Could he have shot the ball better from beyond the arc? Absolutely. He did not shoot the ball well from outside in this series, and that is part of the reason the Cavs didn't win. But he did everything possible, everything he was capable of doing in order to try and will the Cavs to wins in 4 of the 5 games. Game 4, got injured, didn't play in the second half, would not have mattered. And he very clearly was not himself. Like, he was not as explosive in this game. You know, he was listed as questionable with an ankle injury. He had a very heavy wrap on his left calf, too. Both when he was warming up, you could kind of see it before the game, like when he was on the floor for not the team pregame warmups, but like his individual workout. And then when he went to the podium afterwards, like his calf was still wrapped up. And it is something he was dealing with. He was fighting through it. And I think he probably deserves a lot of respect nationally for playing the way he played through something that very clearly was limiting him. But he didn't shoot the ball well enough. And that's part of the reason why the Cavs are now going on vacation. It's part of it. They didn't shoot the ball well tonight. Before this series started, the Cavs played 86 basketball games between the regular season and the 4 games against the Miami Heat in the first round. They played 86 games. In those 86 games, they made fewer than 10 threes 0 times, not once. The fewest three-pointers made in a game they had was 10. In this series, in the 5 games they played, they had 2 games in which they only made 9 three-pointers. And this was one of them. They didn't make their first three-pointer until DeAndre Hunter hit a three-pointer with 10 minutes and 3 seconds left in the second quarter. That was the first three-pointer they made. They went to the locker room at halftime having made 1 three-pointer. That's not going to get it done. They were able to build a lead early because Donovan Mitchell got to the rim repeatedly, because Evan Mobley, I thought, played really well early in this game. But ultimately, the lack of shooting for them really caught up with them. And that is one of the things that I'm going to struggle to understand probably for a little while. And I get part of it. The Pacers defended well. They limited how many wide open threes the Cavs were able to generate. And that's a big part of this. It absolutely is a big part of this. But for the Cavs to go from the best shooting team in basketball on wide open threes, which they were during the regular season, to a team that shot 10 percentage points worse than the Orlando Magic in this series. The Magic were the worst team in the NBA in wide open threes. They shot 35% from that during the regular season. The Cavs were 10 points worse than that in this series. If you're the Cavs, I think that is the thing that is probably going to bother you the most about this, because there were opportunities. They let game 2 slip away. They let this game slip away. They were up by 19 points in the second quarter, and then they couldn't contain Tyrese Haliburton in this game. I thought for the most part this series, the Cavs did a really good job defending Tyrese Haliburton. I thought one of the keys of this series was, well, they have to keep his assist numbers down, because when he gets to that 10 assists or more, the Pacers aren't unbeatable, but they win at like a 75% rate, maybe an 80% rate. In this series, I believe he only had one game, if I'm not mistaken, with double-digit assists. And this year, when he had single-digit assists, so 9 or fewer, the Pacers were a 500 team. That's it. They were 20-20. Now, he had 31 points in this game because he had 5 threes in the second quarter, and that's what brought the Pacers back to life. Like, part of the reason why the Cavs were able to play great defensively early is not only were the Cavs shooting the ball terribly, they went 0 of 5 on threes in the first half or in the first quarter. The Pacers were 1 of 8. So their shooting was nearly as bad as the Cavs, which is part of the reason why their offense was, I don't want to say non-existent, but very bad early. Then Tyrese Haliburton hits 5 of them in the second quarter. He had 17 points in the second quarter, and that's where this game was won. The Cavs had a 19-point lead. I think if this is a game where they're able to build on that just a little bit and push it out to like 25 or so midway through the third quarter, Pacers might have called off the Dogs. Like, they could have had an opportunity to say, okay, you know what? You got us tonight. We'll see you in game 6. Instead, they failed to execute offensively. They failed to stop Tyrese Haliburton. They failed to do everything. They got outplayed thoroughly in this series. The Pacers deserve so much credit for that. They do. They were awesome. But it's hard not to look at the Cavs and just say, what happened, you guys? Because this is not the team that we saw play basketball all season long. It's not. Now, where do they go from here? I don't have that answer right now, but I do think at a certain point, maybe it's not entirely on this show, but at a certain point, we have to talk about changes. We do have to talk about changes because, as I said, this was not good enough. It was not good enough whatsoever. The Cavs were playing through injuries, but they were not good enough. We will continue to talk about this just absolutely failure of a postseason next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by CarGurus. Shopping for a car should be exciting, not exhausting. 2 words. Both start with E. Very, very different. But between the confusing prices and hidden fees, it can, at times, feel overwhelming. That's why you should be using CarGurus. They help you cut through the noise and show you the best deals with full confidence. They've got over 4 million listings, and they have more new and used cars than any other major online marketplace in the United States. They verify dealers, very important to do, provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data you need to make the right choice without second guessing yourself. You want to know you are making the right choice. You want to be able to believe in the choice that you're making. Plus, they've got price drop alerts, so you know exactly when the perfect car is available for your budget. And the in-depth vehicle details give you peace of mind before stepping onto any lot. So buy or sell your next car today with CarGurus at CarGurus.com. That is CarGurus.com. Again, CarGurus.com to make your big deal is the best deal. That's CarGurus.com. Again, CarGurus.com, CarGurus.com. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. One of the other things about this series, I guess maybe the area where I was the second most wrong. I think the area I was the most wrong is, well, the Cavs are just going to hit a bunch of threes and they'll be okay. I thought that the Cavs' depth was so much better than what it was. Part of that's the injuries and roles being shifted around a little bit. Ty Jerome had some nice moments in this game. He did not have a very good series at all, but he had some nice moments in this game. Gave the Cavs a spark in the second half. DeAndre Hunter, hampered by that thumb injury, he hit some shots. I thought he was good tonight. Don't know that I would say he was good in this series. Roles were changed around a little bit. I thought the only role player really that had a good series was Max Strus, and he had a horrendous game 5. I thought he was good in the first 4 games, or at least, the first 3. I don't want to say anybody had a good game 4, but the Cavs didn't get enough from their depth. Like, I thought that was an area where, okay, they have a big advantage here, and the Pacers play so quick that it can wear the Cavs down, but the Cavs can play 10 guys, and that should alleviate some of that pressure, some of that pain that the Pacers inflict. It didn't. Instead, the Cavs were the team that had players that were not playable. I mean, you watched in game 5, Thomas Bryant for the Pacers just have an incredible third quarter. That's an unacceptable thing for the team that's supposed to have more depth and have more star power too. I mean, that is part of it. Like, if you're drafting players, and I thought Evan Mobley had a good game 5. I wouldn't say it was great, but I thought he had a much better game 5 than game 4, obviously. But if you were drafting players in the series, like picking the top 10 players, more guys from the Cavs, maybe even 7-3 would have gone in the top 10 before the series. After the series, absolutely not. The way the Pacers role players played, and they fit their system so well and they ran it to perfection. And the Cavs had no answers. I thought during this series, and I mentioned this on the Instant Reaction podcast that maybe you've already watched, maybe you've already listened to, I don't know. But I thought that the Pacers presented problems for the Cavs, and I was right about that. But I thought that the Cavs had more answers and would present problems of their own for Indiana. And outside of really the second quarter in game 3, that wasn't necessarily the case. And that to me is one of the more surprising things to come out of this series. There's still, I think, a lot to talk about when you think about this series. I think that this is a series that the Cavs are going to have to wear this offseason, and Donovan Mitchell spoke about this after the game. This offseason, there are going to be takes, and the Cavs can do nothing about those takes. They're going to have to sit and listen to those takes and read those takes, or entirely avoid those takes. I don't know. Every player, every person that works for that organization probably going to have a different way of handling it. But there are going to be takes. They're going to be written, going to be podcasted about. I'm going to have some of them. Others will have others. But there are going to be takes about this team and why they came up short and how they came up short. I can tell you right now, this Cavs team is going to be compared endlessly to the 2014-2015 Atlanta Hawks, the team that I pushed back on them being compared to all year. I have nothing to say about that right now. I can't. How can I? This Cavs team had much more regular season success than that Hawks team did, but man, that Hawks team at least made the conference finals before they got swept. That's what this summer is going to be. And I don't work for the team. I'm somebody who writes some podcasts about the team. But if I had advice, and Donovan Mitchell sort of spoke about this after the game, that should be the thing that fuels them. That should be the thing that keeps them going, because they're going to have to wear it. My advice would be embrace this. You have failed. You have failed in a way that nobody expected you to. I didn't expect it. Nobody nationally expected it. Go look at ESPN's prediction. 11-4-11. Pick the Cavs in this series. I picked them in 5. Could not have been more wrong. I got the number of games right, just the wrong team, which when that's the case and it's 5 games, something went really bad. But you're going to have to think about this all summer. You're going to have to wear this all summer. You're going to have to wear this, truthfully, until this time next year. And maybe at this time next year, we'll be talking about the Cavs winning a game 5 of the conference semifinals and potentially moving on to the conference finals for the first time since 2018. But there are going to be takes. Cavs are going to have to live with them. They use it as fuel, great. If they don't, then we'll probably be in the same spot next year. But before I get out of here, I also wanted to say thank you to everybody for, like, in all seriousness, like I know I say this at the end of every show. Thank you for making your first listen. I do truly appreciate that. But this has been a blast. I took over this podcast nearly a year ago. June 3rd of last year was the first podcast with Locked On Cavs I did. And it has been such a treat and really an honor to get to do this every day. I haven't counted how many episodes I've done. I haven't counted how many articles I wrote on my Substack or whatever. But it's been truly like the thrill of my career to get to cover this team every single day. I love my job. I love what I do. I'm so lucky to get to do this every single day. And talk Cavs with you guys and interact and do stuff like that. It's a really, really cool thing. I'm so happy I get to do it. And I appreciate everybody that does listen, that does read, that does do all those things and helps to support the show, because that's how I can do this. Like, I had a full-time job before this, and I quit that full-time job so that I could do this. I took a pretty big bet on myself. I took a pretty big bet that the Cavs were going to be good and there would be a lot of interest, and there has been. It's been incredible. The support I felt from everybody from day one, I can't really describe. And I get paid to describe things. So I think that sort of says how remarkable it's been. But I'm not going anywhere. I will still be coming your way 5 days a week, sometimes maybe 6 days a week. I don't know. Right here on Locked On Cavs. There is a lot to discuss this offseason. But I just wanted to kind of add this in because I know that there's a chunk of the audience that listens after games, and there's a lot of people that are everydayers. And I appreciate the everydayers. I appreciate the, post-game listeners as well. But I just wanted to say thank you, because you have a choice when you wake up in the morning, or, if it's your lunch break at work, or if you're driving home, you have a choice about what you listen to. And every time you put Locked On Cavs on, I truly do appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you choose to make Locked On Cavs part of your day. I hope you continue to do so. And again, that despite this, what very clearly is, as I've said for the past 30 minutes, a postseason failure, and the season should not be looked at as a success, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to get to talk about this team every single day with you guys. And again, I truly, truly appreciate everybody making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. So as I always say, thank you wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor as we get out of here for the last time talking about an actual Cavs game until October. Hit that thumbs up button for me on YouTube. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell, because I don't want you to miss any off-season content coming your way from Locked On Cavs.